say and spell your name before I...
Testing, you got me okay, you think?
Yep.
Yep. Jim Renfro, J-I-M, Renfro, R-E-N-F as in Frank, R-O. I'm the Air Resource Specialist or Air Quality Specialist for Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Okay, so just stay still for me.
Yeah.
And let's talk about where you have been. It's
Sure.
pretty bad here for a couple
Yeah.
of years.
Well, air quality, air resources here at Great Smoky Mountains National Park is a top priority. We've been monitoring air quality for 35 years here at the park, for a long time. And it shows that we've got a number of air quality concerns: ozone pollution and its impacts on public health and the environment, particle pollution, which also affects people's health, and haziness contributes to the regional haze that we've had for seems like forever. Acid rain, acid deposition, impacting streams and soils and harming the fish and trees. So lots of air quality concerns. This decision yesterday by EPA to redesignate the Knoxville ozone non-attainment area is good news. It means that we've met a milestone, that we've had enough days to measure attainment, to meet that standard designed to protect public health. So all of those issues, acid rain, ozone, pollution, haziness, regional haze, are all getting better. Our monitoring shows that. It's due to emission reductions that have taken place throughout the region. TVA should be applauded for their efforts to reduce emissions, putting the state of the science controls on our nearby power plants. Cleaner cars and trucks, cleaner diesel fuels and engines are better and cleaner. So all that has led to lower emissions. Tailpipe emissions, smokestack emissions are lower. TVA is reduced over 90% over the past 15 years in the East Tennessee Valley. That's had a huge impact on clearer air, cleaner air. And so over the past several years, we've been monitoring ozone really back to the 80s, and it showed since 1997 that we've been failing and exceeding levels that can damage people's health. In 2004, we were designated non-attainment by EPA. A new standard came, a little lower, a little tighter, more protective. They call that the 2008 standard. That was established in 2012, and we failed that. It was a little lower. But since then, we've been measuring a little cleaner air, clean enough where the state, Knox County, even the park was supportive of petitioning EPA to get us off that list. We had enough good years, clean enough data, good data that showed that we're meeting that standard. And so yesterday's decision was final and got us off of that list. Now it may be short-lived. By October 1st of this year, so less than 3 months, EPA is ordered to produce a final standard that could be more stringent than the one that we just met. So, and it depends on where they set it. EPA is required every 5 years to review the standards and to review the science that's behind that. Is it adequate? Is the standard good enough? And it shows that the science behind today's standard isn't, that the levels are not good enough. And it should be somewhere between 60 and 70 parts per billion. The current standard that we just met is 76. So the scientific people are saying 60 to 70 to protect public health. And if it's 70, some counties may have trouble. If it's 65, if EPA sets that there, then most of the Knox area counties, including the park, would have trouble with that. It won't be for a couple of years until EPA produces the final designation. We have a couple of years then to monitor, to comment, work with each other on what we think are the areas that have problems. You know, the Clean Air Act and the efforts that have been going on since 1970 really is a work in progress. Many milestones have been met. The Clean Air Act's work in progress shows that it's working, that emissions over time are going down, which means air quality is going to get better, and it is. and people's health are better. The visibility here at the park, the haziness that was really bad in the 1980s, 1990s, that actually was getting worse due to increases in emissions from coal-fired power plants producing sulfur dioxide. Once those controls went on by TVA, the air started cleaning up pretty quick. The clarity of the air is much better. The haziest kinds of days that happen in the summer months used to average 8 miles. That was the average. So if you're in Sevierville looking at the mountains, you couldn't see them. If you're in the mountains looking out, you couldn't see out of the park. Now that 8-mile average is up around 45 or 50-mile average. So we've come a long ways, about 120% improvement in light extinction or haziness. And so the hazy day is the exception now. People are getting used to clearer, cleaner air, and we like that. But it doesn't mean we're done. For all these concerns, we're on the right track. Air is getting better, but we want to meet all those standards with a margin of safety. We want to be able to be assured that we can stay there, and we want to protect the resource. Ecological restoration from some of these acid rain impaired streams we want to also protect those as well. We're violating the Clean Water Act due to low pH in some of our streams. Low pH meaning too acid, too acidic, from atmospheric deposition of the same pollutants that contribute to some of these other problems. So we're working together with the state EPA to find out, well, what does it take to protect that impaired stream? And let's continue to work toward that over time. So it's, if you look at the near term, if there's a prognosis over the next several years, I think air quality will continue to improve. That's great news. Beyond that, who knows? There's enough on the books that I think fleets and emissions from TVA will continue to go down. Air quality will improve. Beyond that, we really don't know, but hopefully we can stay there, continuing to, I know the South is growing and we continue to get visitation, and hopefully we can continue to provide this great experience, great visibility, and a healthy ecosystem.
I think you covered it all.
I did. I went from A to Z.
Yeah.
But
The last thing, though, is one,
we could stop and think about it real quick.
the
So
other thing that I was wanting to ask is what's the work that you have done?
Yeah.
You guys here in the park.
I can absolutely do that.
Studying, your
Sure.
monitors
Yeah.
and different stuff like that. So what
Right.
have you guys done?
Yeah, the park has a great, complex, extensive monitoring program. That really is the most important part of the air quality program in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. There's about 7 sites in the park where we measure air quality and climate every second of every minute of every day for decades. And that really helps us answer a lot of the questions. Number one, do we meet public health standards? Yes or no? Are we getting better or worse? How do we compare to other places? How does a place like Clingman's Dome compare to downtown Knoxville? And we measure ozone or some of these pollutants the very same way. So it gives us the ability to compare across the area. Research, there's a lot of research. People come from all over the world to study this great outdoor laboratory to answer specific questions of, well, how much ozone does it take to cause impacts to certain species of plants? We know some species of herbaceous plants, flowering plants, even some of our trees are very sensitive to ozone, just like people. And the leaves take up ozone during the day. It disrupts photosynthesis and can damage that plant, that species. And enough damage can happen where you actually see damage to the leaf. It can disrupt photosynthesis where the actual plant doesn't grow as good over the whole growing season. And the structure or the makeup of the forest is different because of ozone pollution. So, the Clean Air Act is intended to protect public health, number one, and welfare. And that's everything else air quality can affect. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is a Class 1 area under the Clean Air Act. There's a provision in the amendments that says, to the Clean Air Act, that says all big national parks should be a Class 1 area, and they should be the cleanest areas in the country that gets extra protection. So we take that serious. That's consistent with our mission to preserve these resources unimpaired for future generations. But the Clean Air Act builds on that and says, anything that air pollution can affect, we want to protect those resources. So whether it's streams or soils, vegetation, visibility, we want to protect that. And so we have a role, and it's great to see that air really is now improving. A lot less days that are unhealthy. If EPA does come out with a new standard in the fall, and it's lower, there'll be some attention on that, but it doesn't mean that the air quality is getting worse. I think it's important to note that EPA is looking at the science and it says it should be down here. Air quality is getting better also. So that's great news. We'll work toward, again, together to try to meet those standards, whatever they are. But again, a great milestone, work in progress. We're not done. There's still work to do. I think that's an important message that everybody needs to know, that we want to continue to improve because we need to restore some of our resources, and we want to make sure we stay there too, where it's clean. So that's it's great news that this area is back into compliance under the ozone pollution standard. Okay, you can grab those.